Gale Force Winds is pleased to introduce a stream of thought leadership focused on family-owned businesses.
Family businesses are a unique breed and often, I think, misunderstood.
Something like 3.26 trillion, that's what the T is in Tommy, revenue from family businesses in North America alone.
Laura is a strategic planning and leadership development executive with extensive experience in coaching, leading teams, and cultivating relationships in the corporate and non-for-profit sectors. Laura brings her expertise in organizational and leader development, communicating for influence and impact, navigating complex transitions, and achieving peak performance to her work with clients to create powerful and resilient leaders.
Charles Chuck Firlotte is a corporate executive who has led transformational change across industry sectors in 4 countries. Currently, he helps organizations navigate growth and drive productivity through a focus on people, process, and profit.
Hello, Laura. It's good to see you. Last time we talked about family-owned businesses and succession in particular. It was all about how we ensure a process that will have the right people ending up in the right slots. And it's always tricky in a family-owned business. And you had talked about sort of a 3-pronged approach of passion and commitment and competence. You want to explain that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's great to see you and to continue our conversation around family-owned businesses, which are a unique breed, as we've established in the past. We often think about the term succession is often written about, talked about, and debated, perhaps. But I think there are a few components. I do think that the three legs of the stool are important when we are talking about succession. And that's to have the conversations around passion for the business, commitment to the business, and the competence to run the business. And I think that they're each important. And I think it would be interesting to discuss them a little bit.
So passion, commitment, and competence. Let's take passion. How do you decipher that? How do you determine if someone coming up, a young man or a woman, has passion for the business, for the family-owned business? How do you determine that? Does that begin with communication?
I think everything begins and ends with communication, if you want my personal opinion on this. But I do think sometimes it's clearly evident, right? I mean, in a family business, oftentimes there are individuals within the family who let it be known. So it's pretty clear and observable. And maybe it's even outright kind of named. But I often think that, like many other important conversations in families, that this is one that should be communicated about openly, honestly, and often along the path when a family business is evolving, and over time, as perhaps children in the business, grandchildren become of working age. And I think families don't often have those conversations in the right moment and as openly as they should in order to ensure the business success.
So I had a friend in central Canada with a manufacturing business who had 2 sons, and both real thoroughbreds, real, class acts, and are supremely talented, well-educated, great pedigree, went into the business for a couple of years and then left. What do you think happened there?
I think there's any number of things that could have happened there, but one of the things that seems perhaps that was overlooked is an honest conversation about, hey, you have all of the competence, right? The pedigree, the intellect, the competence to do the business, right, to run the business. But passion and commitment were not clearly openly discussed, right? That this passion, either I love doing this work, I love this business. It's also in my soul, like you, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, or the commitment's not there either. From it's more than I want to take on, it's more than I want to take on right now, or I don't know. And can we have the conversation about it? And so without those, that situation can happen, right? The current owner of the business sees that there's competent family all around, and yet all of a sudden, when it becomes time for them to lean in and step into the business, this lack of passion and or commitment becomes evident, and all of a sudden the pathway that they imagined might be there is no longer there.
And how do we assess competence?
That's a great conversation and exploration. And I think, we can start the conversation today. Not sure we can finish that, because competence will also depend on putting the right people in the right positions. Yep. So, I think it's an assessment of existing leadership in the business, and a really honest assessment and evaluation of other family members and what they bring to the table. What are their strengths? Where are the most important opportunities in the business, so that we can match family and talent with what is needed most.
So you would need an honest assessment by an assessment body, one or more individuals, who would determine an individual's skill set based on things like managing people, their communication skills, how they are at team building, marketing skills, selling skills, financial skills, analytical skills.
Yeah. I mean, just as the corporate world talks about leader development, right? And how are we deliberately developing people to grow into what the business needs most into the future, for success into the future. We have something called owner development in family businesses. It's no different. It's the same thing. Only we have to look at owners not just through the lens of passion and commitment, but what is their competence level now, and where are there opportunities for deliberate development of them, especially as aligned to what are the roles that are most important or that are open and available. And how do we place family members? How do we place them into positions of leadership in the business that actually takes into consideration where the business is growing into, in the future?
So would you suggest that, beyond high school internships and university summer jobs, that perhaps some family members should steer away from the business and not go into it at all, depending on their aptitude and interests in life?
I actually think this is part, right? This is part of the important conversations, and mind you, especially given that it's family, hard conversations, right? These are hard enough in organizations where people are not family, right? We know organizations and leadership often struggle with these, made even more complicated when it is family. But how critical it is to have those conversations, because there's a whole wealth of opportunities available for developing people, developing owners. From, to your point, internships, opportunities to work in other organizations before they enter the family business, to coaching, to executive education. There's a myriad of opportunities that are available once those conversations are in play, and we're now really looking at succession at its best, which is how do we put leadership in place that can steer the business into future success, which, by the way, often looks different than what got them there, right? The old, what got you here may not get you there. And those are important pieces of those succession conversations.
So this is a relatively structured process, really, isn't it? And I think what you're suggesting is the very existence of that process brings clarity and could bring comfort to family members. Is that?
I think putting a structure in place for these conversations, and in some ways, I mean, even you and I having this conversation starts to normalize the conversation that families need to be having. But they are hard. They're hard. They're hard, you know, in the world of work in general. And they're even harder when there are family dynamics in play.
Laura Campbell, we're about 20 seconds from our self-inflicted time stop. So I am going to thank you and bid you a great day. Great conversation on family-owned businesses and how we ensure that the right people are in the right slots.
Absolutely. We could talk about this for days. So maybe we'll pick this up in another video.
We shall. Some aspect of the family journey.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Gale Force Winds is pleased to introduce a stream of thought leadership focused on family-owned businesses.
Family businesses are a unique breed and often, I think, misunderstood.
Something like 3.26 trillion, that's what the T is in Tommy, revenue from family businesses in North America alone.
Laura is a strategic planning and leadership development executive with extensive experience in coaching, leading teams, and cultivating relationships in the corporate and non-for-profit sectors. Laura brings her expertise in organizational and leader development, communicating for influence and impact, navigating complex transitions, and achieving peak performance to her work with clients to create powerful and resilient leaders.
Charles Chuck Firlotte is a corporate executive who has led transformational change across industry sectors in 4 countries. Currently, he helps organizations navigate growth and drive productivity through a focus on people, process, and profit.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Winds. That's Gale Force Winds, WINS.com.